Ooh, there's the little red.
Yep, I have been letting it go a couple minutes just because some people do actually come and watch this later on, and there's like some time before the thing, just in case anything funny happens.
Well, like that.
Yep, exactly like that. Yep.
Perfect.
So Greg has a baby Wookiee in his house, and now we will start the show. What's up, party animals?
Hey.
Corey, is that your riff or is that a stock?
No, that's mine.
Okay, cool. I like it a lot.
Cool. Yeah, I do. I have to mention the piano part in it is from Jenner, who totally took what I did and made it significantly better.
Yeah, Corey never uses my riffs.
Because you never send them to me.
I know, because I suck as a musician. I'm not a musician, so it would be
a good reason.
Yeah. So good morning, everybody. Welcome to Hashtag Coffee on the So Local Live Network. I am Ash Gallagher. That is Corey Cottrell, and I just introduce people wrong because why not? It's nice to be with you this morning. We start with gratitude, right?
Yeah, that's what happens.
Just a friendly reminder. Since Corey Elko's not here, I have to remind us to start with gratitude.
Checks out. Ash, do you want to kick us off this morning?
Yeah, I'm really I'm grateful for the walks and mini hikes that I've been having lately. It's been really a pleasure to kind of start my day with that sort of sense of nature peace in the mountains, kind of getting my mountain woman heart fed. Grateful to have a boy with you, and that we have a singing dog. Yeah, grateful for this tea. This is really good tea. I've got Rubio's tea this morning, so.
Nice.
Awesome sauce.
I'm told by people that should know that that's actually a pretty good vehicle for magic mushrooms, rooibos tea. Not that I would ever condone or do such a thing, but I'm told that that's a good way to ingest them.
Uh-huh.
Okay. So the kids tell me.
Uh-huh.
That was always my favorite Hunter S. Thompson quote is I hate to advocate for drug use, but it's done so much for me personally. Corey, what are you grateful for?
Drugs.
Yeah. See, Corey is the kids I was talking about.
Anyway, cheers, Corey. Cheers.
Yeah. Yeah. If this isn't a good week to take a heroic dose of psilocybin mushrooms, I don't know what.
Sweet monkey Jesus, that's accurate.
I'm grateful for being. Oh no, you didn't do yours yet. You did drugs, but you.
I mean, I am not kidding about that. I am in fact grateful for good drugs, coffee among them. Yeah. So I'm grateful that my cousin Jan started the gratitude channel on Chirp, which it's actually one of the most lit places on the platform. Which is, and again, we're still small. We're picking up now. I noticed there was like a bunch of posts overnight. But the sort of beginning part of it, like I see tons of Ash. I see tons of Chet. I see tons of gratitude posts. I'm like, this is good shit. And, there's going to be a lot of people showing up. But, I have this hope that because of the people that are posting there the most often, that the growth of the network might reflect that. And that makes me really excited. Because we could only be so lucky, frankly.
Nice.
Yep.
I am grateful that I'm in a place where I can be helpful to other people. That hasn't been the case for a while, and it is today. And it's a helpless feeling when you know people are suffering and you can't do anything for them. And I knew somebody that needs some help, and I got them some help, and I feel good about that. I feel like I'm grateful that I'm in a place where I can do that now. That I woke up this morning and said, what should I have for breakfast? Not this is what I have for breakfast. I have choices today, and I'm grateful for that.
I'm grateful for that too, Greg. For you.
It's been a struggle. Not gonna lie, but I'm feeling pretty good today. So
good.
Yeah, Dave Myers, grateful I haven't killed anybody yet today.
I mean, you gotta start somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm grateful that Corey Elko showed up while you were making that joke. He said, "Who are you folks? What is this?
What is going on?"
And then there you go.
Nice. What is Maria Richardson's one baffles me.
The
grateful
Ganja
for the
God.
Oh, Ganja God. I thought that would be with a J, Ganja, but Ganga God. I got confused. Well, I got confused because that's not. I've never seen it spelled that way, so that's okay. It's all good.
Well, I guess my ignorance held me out there because I would have no understanding one way or the other.
Well, I got you.
Then what happened?
What was that?
Sorry, I was making sure pulling up my screen, and then I had to mute the other audio. And sorry, I was just making sure I was all connected.
All good.
Yeah, gotcha.
All good. Yeah, Sherry Burney, grateful for the sense of normalcy and escape that football Sundays bring me. Right?
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
I spent the whole first half of the Buccaneers game going, "Wow, great throw, you Trump supporting asshole," because Tom Brady is playing for the Bucs.
I saw your Facebook post about without mentioning that. I'm like, what sport ball thing is he watching?
Yeah, Brady is playing for the Bucs now, and it was like, wow, the guy's amazing. I fucking hate him. So it was a pretty interesting football game for me.
Mixed feelings.
Yeah, pretty much. Melanie C, grateful for the RGB and everything she did for us. Grateful that a vintage MCM store in North Carolina, I lost that, has four of my paintings. Nice. And I've got 2 commissions lined up. Awesome. Amazing. I love Melanie's landscape paintings or seascapes. Good stuff. Really good stuff. So always grateful for our artist friends.
Dream said, I'm grateful for over 60 days of freebie prenatal vitamins for the doc. Saves me money for upcoming medical bills. Fantastic.
Nice. Coffee baby. Hashtag coffee baby.
Coffee baby. When are we gonna do the coffee baby party on the show? I think we should do that.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Right?
Although we won't be blowing anything up for a gender reveal. That's not a thing we're gonna do.
I mean, hold on here. What is happening? That was not what I wanted to do. I thought he had fireworks in here somewhere. I was just gonna light shit up. We could do it virtually. Damn it!
60 days of free prenatal vitamins from the doc saves me money for upcoming medical bills.
Yep.
I'm grateful for you.
Good stuff.
Indeed. All right.
I'm actually also grateful for I made someone in their male privilege feel very, very uncomfortable yesterday, and I'm actually grateful for that too.
Nice.
Yep.
Actually grateful for that too.
Good. Yeah, Ginny, that's a tough one, but I if there's any good in the weekend, grateful that RGB's passing has lit a fire under the asses of Democrats so close to the election. It's something like $50 million raised over the weekend for flip the Senate races and a few other things. So that's good stuff. We ended up getting enraged enough to put together a day of action this Saturday. We're going to be getting together and making phone calls, postcards, and text banking across the country, all of our listeners and viewers, and a whole bunch of people that they invited. I was not prepared to organize a massive thing, but here we go. So we're going to live stream and talk about our successes and our failures, and making phone calls to strangers and being yelled at and hung up on. It's not an easy thing, but it's important work right now. And getting over my anxiety and just making the calls, contacting voters always makes me feel better. And it will you too. So we hope you'll join us on Saturday for that. You can join the hashtag Coffee Day of Action group on Facebook that Ginny was kind enough to start for us yesterday, right? Yeah. To get involved in that.
Yeah, it's funny. That's exactly kind of where we Michelle and I landed this morning when we were talking about it. Obviously, we've, I had to let her know that Shithead has actually announced his pick already. He did that this morning.
Oh yeah.
And Michelle seemed kind of shocked. I'm like, no, like this is happening. They're gonna do this. Like that. There's gonna be a vote on this. And Lindsey Graham's tape from 2018 saying that there's no way that he would do it, and he's the head of the judiciary. I don't think anybody reasonably believes a word that he says. There's no reason to.
Forgive me, I didn't see who they picked. Did you see the name?
I didn't, but we could probably Google that.
Yeah, I didn't. I haven't been up that long, so
it was. If it's the person that was getting floated over the weekend, it is a woman. But she is.
They'll do it to pretend like they're trying to.
Well, she's a Bible thumping Sharia law psycho.
Yeah,
from what I saw.
Right.
Who's going to be, and that's going to be dangerous as hell.
Yep.
So.
Yeah, so we talked about, and now Pelosi's not ruling out impeachment as an option to stop Trump from his court pick. So like she's, finally, well, not finally, but like, mad enough. I hope there's talk about stacking the courts if they do this. So I think at the end of the day, I think Ginny's absolutely right. Like I think this is going to put steel in the spines of a lot of elected officials, because it's just completely fucking pissed us all off. Like, stop pretending there's anything, we've been saying this for years, but like, if anyone just wants to pretend that there's norms left, they need to leave. You just need to shut the fuck up and not be part of this anymore.
I mean, we're going 5-4 to 6-3, and like, that's clearly a move. And it's fucking frightening. Right.
Yeah. He has not, by the way, he has not picked someone yet. He said he's going
Okay.
He's going to pick by Friday or Saturday.
All right, I must have misread that.
The list is down to about 5 names, apparently.
Cool.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, this is going to happen. We're gonna lose the Supreme Court seat. We just are, and all the maneuvering.
Okay, I would rather us not. Like, I know that we feel that way. I know that we do.
I mean,
but if
all the evidence dictates that that's what's going to happen. We still have work to do. I agree. It's just like I'm inspired by what Pelosi's doing, because she's actually they're planning to fight this tooth and nail. And even from an electoral politics point of view, that's good, because that keeps this shit move in the news every day until the election. That helps us win the Senate. That helps us beat Trump. All of that is great. But at the end of the day, McConnell holds all of the cards. Right? Unless they start and Pelosi throwing around the whole idea of impeachment shows you how many of the cards that he holds. Like I think it would be irresponsible to let people think that we're in a strong position where it's possible to do anything.
And she needs to take more action. So look, I know that she's had some star moments. She has had some star moments. However, to be honest with you, in the last election, I voted against her. I voted against her Democratic opposition, not her Republican opposition, her Democrat opposition. It happened to be a Hispanic male, actually, that had done a lot for that district, for the state that was
I think I heard he's like super progressive too. He's supposed to be really good.
And I just, because Nancy's been there way too long. In the Senate, Dianne Feinstein's been there too long as well. And I love the fact that, yes, they're women, but there's also other women, there's Hispanic men, there's other minorities that have run for those seats. And so, because California is not short of Democrats. So, if she really wants to show her leadership right now, then she needs to do something quickly. If there's an impeachment against anyone at any point, then she needs to move fast. She don't got time. We don't have time. I think that I believe that the death of Justice Ginsburg is showing us we don't have any more fucking time to fuck around. And that is, I think I read somebody yesterday had posted, they said, it really sucks that women have to put every bit of hope they have to keep things at bay on one woman at a time. We had Hillary in 2016, and then we kind of turned to Justice. It's really been in the last 5 years. She's gotten like another rush. She's done amazing things for decades, but it's like she's got another rush since the last election of support from all over the country, and it's like one woman at a time. We keep it because there's not enough representation. Our representation is still far too damn low. It's too low in the courts. It's too low in, and I'm not talking about just any representation. This is where the conservatives get it wrong. They sit there and say, well, especially if Trump picks a woman. Well, we picked a woman. Why wouldn't you want that one? Because we can't have just any woman. We need to have a woman who actually stands up for women's rights, not for a woman who hangs on the coattails of men to earn their power and submits themselves to men. I do have a rage about this because this is where the differentiation comes in. I was pleased to see there was an article that shows that some of the 51% white women who voted for 45 are now beginning to change their minds. Jesus, I hope so. And I hope that's reflected in the votes, but we need them out in the streets too. We need them out in the streets with us, with the more progressive or left or leaning ones. And we can't have any more of this bitching around either. There has to be some unity to make and inclusiveness among white women in particular to make sure that we are standing next to our Black sisters as well, who, by the way, have already done this kind of thing hundreds of times. And this is where abolition feminism needs to take the lead, in my opinion, and that is the idea that we are going to create a system of inclusion between white women and Black women, that we're going to join their table rather than constantly give them the scraps of ours. And we need to be able to stand together now, because Justice Ginsburg fought for us to do that. Her dissents were rebukes. Her dissents were corrections. Her dissent was the grandmother or the mother giving you the evil eye every single time. And her language was a lot stronger than people realize. I mean, yeah, she was this cute little soft lady at times, but like that little holy Jewish woman was constantly rebuking the court every time there was a decision that was made that was going to take away and hurt the rights of whether it was women or LGBTQ or other causes that have been so vital and important. So we don't have any more fucking time. I know that McConnell holds the cards. I hate that, but we have to hold on to some level of hope that the work we do over the next 7 weeks is going to matter. We have to believe it matters. She had to believe that what she had done mattered. And so even if he holds the cards, I really liked that. I think the sign that I saw a post this morning. I feel like Michelle put it up, where the sign said, "Ruth sent me," and she was sitting in front of McConnell's house. We need more women to go in front of his house and start protesting, because and journalists, if there's any journalist, if there's anybody from the media that catches any of this, please play over and over and over and over again Mitch McConnell's, sorry, I saw her name on the bottom of the screen, Mitch McConnell's statement that he made very vocally, saying, during an election year, we're not going to fill the seat. That needs to be played like a broken record on every single news channel right now, so that it is loud and clear that he is the sniveling hypocrite that we already know that he is. The same with Graham, the same with Lindsey Graham. And I do know the one thing I like about Harris is that she's still doing her job as a senator. She has not set it aside for the campaign trail. She gets to work. So, I know that she will be very present through all of this. I don't know if is she on the Judiciary Committee?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, she is.
Oh, yeah.
So I really look forward that if you do put someone in front of them, that she's going to have a lot to say. A fire's under our ass, and we need to we need to go with it. We need to absolutely go with it, because we're lamenting. That funny article that came out the other day about how women were texting each other fuck. I was one of those women. One of my dear friends sent me a text message. I woke up to it saying she was on the overnight shift. RBG died. My immediate response was fuck. And then we talked later and just sort of, we lamented over it. And then I talked to another friend of mine who and she and I lamented over it, because that's where we are. We are desperate for representation. recently I watched on Netflix the film Disclosure, which is actually about our trans brothers and sisters, and it's a beautiful documentary. But one of the things over and over again they keep talking about is the need for desperation or for representation. And my takeaway from that entire film was how important, especially when it comes to repressed groups, suppressed groups, when it comes to women, to Black lives, to LGBTQ, to Black women, to children, by God, to children who don't even always know what their voice needs to say. There's not enough representation because we are still fighting against, sorry boys, cisgender white males who are making all the decisions for our bodies, all the decisions for what we're allowed to do, all of our decisions. They're still making those decisions. I still think it was amazing that Kamala Harris asked Justice likes beer guy whether or not there were any laws that dealt with controlling or taking away choices for men's bodies. And he couldn't answer the fucking question. He stumbled over it. Brett Kavanaugh, Jesus, it's not really even worth saying his name because he's such a joke. But the fact is there's just not enough representation. We are fighting like hell more than ever. This year, 2020 to me, is about the feminine. It's about the divine feminine, the sacred feminine, however, the feminine conscience, however you identify with that space in your world, it is about the feminine conscience, because we had Mother Earth yelling at us and telling us to stay the fuck home because we've destroyed her to the point where we're now spreading diseases all over the world because we don't take care of her. We don't take care of her animals. We don't take care of her beasts. We don't take care of what we're supposed to. We don't do what we're told. And so now we've got that. And then we've seen the rise of Black women leading the Black Lives Matter movement. They've been doing it for years, and this year was just like an advance for it. We've seen it in Europe. We're now seeing more white women come forward, which I'm thankful for and grateful for, but we just can't fucking stop. And I'm angry. I'm really, 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 really angry. I'm raging. And the only thing I know to do with that rage is to fuel it into what I know we have to do, because we don't have a fucking choice and we don't have any more fucking time. We have 7 weeks until the election. A lot of places have opened up the election. I got my ballot a few days ago. I will be spending the next couple of days filling out my ballot and making sure that every judge that I vote for is going to be somebody that's going to move the agenda for women forward or has a record of it in their decisions. We have to have slithers of hope. And, you know, I had a confronting conversation with a good friend yesterday, someone that I respect and I know that respects me, but we had a moment that we had to overcome. And I felt like for a while he was sort of giving me his resume. Well, don't you know I do this and I do this and I do this? And some of those things were fine. And it's like, yes, I know you're doing good work behind the scenes. And he's like, well, what more can I do? What do I have to do? What do I have to do? And he came to this humble moment with me. And I said, I'm not asking you to stop your advocacy. I'm just asking you that any time you can relinquish your seat to a woman, give it up. Anytime that you can relinquish your seat to an LGBTQ person, give it up. Anytime you can relinquish your voice for that Sunday sermon to a Black person, give it up. Let go of your seat if you can. It doesn't mean you stop writing. It doesn't mean you stop the things that you do that are making a difference. It just means that if you have a seat to give up, you give it up, because we need to lead right now. We need to lead. Women need to lead. Black people need to lead. LGBTQ needs to lead. We need to fucking lead. Our voices should be enough. My French Black sister, Asa, she's the leading activist in Paris for Black Lives Matter. It was her brother, Adama, who died 4 years ago, very much like George Floyd. And she told me, she said, I struggle sometimes with the term white privilege. And here's why she struggles with. Not that she doesn't understand what it means. She says, but when leftist people in particular use this phrase, they're using it as if I need their help. And that is actually still making me less than them. That is still making me second to them. She said, my Black voice should be enough. My Black voice. And if my power recognizes your power and your power recognizes my power and we are equal, then we got to fight for the same privileges, which essentially means we're fighting against elitism together. So for her, I guess the French translation she struggles with, because for her, it's about being able to say, I don't need your privilege for my voice to matter. And I would take that action to
shouldn't.
But that's the point.
She
is
shouldn't.
That if we, and I'm not saying we shouldn't use the word and that we don't explain it to people. That's for me. I understand that America's got a slightly different mindset that we need to address. I think in the French world there might be a difference because of the language translation and how it's used here. But I take her challenge seriously, because what I mean, what I'm hearing her is saying in that is that, help me make my Black voice enough. So then I would say, as a woman, help me make my female voice enough, which is what I mean by relinquish the seat. Does that make sense?
So how do we help with that? Like
you guys are doing that right now. To be honest with you, the two of you, I'm sorry. I know that I've gone on for like a little bit here. I've just got all this in me.
Hold on. Yeah, when you were saying that, I was like, and this is why I was excited to have you on, because I mean, we need women around here, and we're lucky, Greg and I, that we have extremely powerful women that we can pick from to come and join us. But I do have to do this. Sorry, not sorry.
Fine, please interrupt me.
Show over.
This is the mic drop.
Anyway,
well,
I spent a while looking. We were halfway through that rant, and I'm like, "Well, show's over now." Anyway, carry on.
I think sometimes it's as simple as me saying, "Corey, quiet for a minute. Let Ash speak." Let Ash finish.
I yield my time. You boys have been very, very generous. You boys have been incredibly generous.
And I also think, though, that when I remind people that think Black Lives Matter is some crazy terrorist organization, it's a movement of Black mothers whose children were killed by police. Yes. It's a movement of Black mothers. That's who founded Black Lives Matter.
Yes.
That's the thing. Well,
I mean,
I don't know where to go.
You are doing that right now. I mean, that's the thing is that I do know that you boys, you gentlemen, I do know that you do that a lot in your spaces. But that is what I would tell any man who is saying, what more can I do? What more can I do? Just be willing to relinquish your seat when the opportunities arise for that to happen. It doesn't mean you stop what you're already doing. I would never ask anyone to do that. Of course, your advocacy is important. It just means let us lead. And
yeah, I mean, I in the past 2 years, I said no to a seat on the Pride board when we were trying to organize our first Pride here, because there are plenty of gay people that should be in those seats. There are plenty of LGBTQA community members here that should be in those board seats. And the same thing happened when Black Lives Matter started to organize here in Pasco County. I deferred. I stepped back. I connected people to each other and then got the hell out of the way. That's the best possible thing I could do. And that really comes to me from my mom, who is a powerful, educated woman in counseling, mental health counseling. And what I learned from her as a better intervention facilitator, which is we need to believe women, we need to trust women, we need to step back and make sure that women's voices take the center of these conversations, because no one knows more about the trauma and fatality of domestic violence than women who run domestic violence shelters. And it's women who started these programs. It wasn't cops, it wasn't judges, it wasn't a legislature. It was a women's shelter in Duluth, Minnesota. It's where all of this started, and that shelter was run by women who had been survivors of domestic violence and set about making a change that held the community accountable for those fatalities. And it was women that led that fight. So I think maybe that's where I come to it from.
And I'm glad for that. I'm very glad for that.
Yeah. I'm happy to defer.
I mean, one of the things I'm even trying to talk to a few different evangelicals too right now is about, actually a lot of people don't know this, but the reason that the biblical scripts, for anybody who has this background, and I know not everyone watching has this background, but they got translated in the first place because women actually urged them to be translated. They partnered with their male scribes to get them translated into Latin. And so we don't realize how much in history, because right now the evangelicals they're going to come for that seat. They're going to come for that seat. And having grown up in that world, I know how dangerous that is. And it's not that people can have their faith or their belief system, but unfortunately, the evangelical Americans right now are going to go after evangelical Sharia. evangelical God's law. And that's really, really dangerous because our country shouldn't be founded on that. And that frightens me. It frightens me because I grew up with the messages of saying, take America back for God. Like I remember those really clear messages.
Well, one of his nominees has, she's actually said exactly that. My career in the law is only part of the story. We should be about restoring the kingdom of God. She literally said exactly what you just said an evangelical Supreme Court judge would say. And she's on the short list.
And that's been going on for decades.
Yeah. To what you were saying before, I want to make sure that, Ash, when I want to tamp people's hope down that there's anything we can do now, it's not impossible in any way, shape, or form. We need to obviously ramp up, period. I guess what I'm thinking is because we're probably going to lose this fight, we start thinking, okay, well, we're organizing. We have to get Trump out of there. This actually gives us an amazing opportunity. Like I in trying to sort of paint a rosy picture for myself, I'm actually more and more convinced that, I mean, she might have done all of civilization a favor by doing this.
What do you mean
by just putting this burden down when she did? Because Democrats are fucking losing their minds. And we were already pretty incensed, but a lot of us were pretty tired, right? Like we didn't have a day of action plan before this.
Right.
And now we do. And it brings in such high relief 45 days before the election, how bankrupt they are morally and ethically. Like just there's no question whatsoever now, right? So now if you bring to Democrats, hey, we're going to make 2 more states and 2 more senators, every Democrat's going to be like, fucking A, let's do it. And the Republicans are going to be like, no. And we won't care anymore, right? Like, like the 3 of us, like a bunch of us have already been there for a long time. But now the party and everybody connected to the party is like, why the fuck would we care about anything you say, right? We're going to make 2 more states because that's the democratically correct thing to do. Oh, that benefits us? Stop being racist pieces of shit and it'll benefit you, right? And everything else in HR 1, like basically, this gives us, I think, a much higher probability of winning the Senate. But even if we win the Senate, there's a significant probability that they're going to get rid of the filibuster, which means the Senate is effectively ours forever. Right? Or unless the Republicans decide to turn around and go, hey, maybe let's stop being racist pieces of shit. What a great idea, right?
You might actually need to use the filibuster. I mean, that's the thing is that like in the next 7 weeks, we might have to, you know what I mean? Like I'm not a big fan of filibuster.
Here's the thing. The filibuster doesn't work. No. This is what, like, if you're the minority, the filibuster doesn't work. It doesn't even do what it's supposed to do. It's a process-oriented thing that doesn't even accomplish what it's supposed to accomplish. It will delay something for like 24 hours. It's not going to work, right? But what it has done is it stopped votes on healthcare. It stopped votes on economic reforms. It stopped votes on electoral reforms, right? On all the things where people aren't paying enough attention. They just use it as a procedural thing to mean that you have to do 60 votes to make anything big happen. And so it doesn't happen. So now we can just get rid of it. And even people like Elizabeth Warren are talking about getting rid of it. So like this, I don't want anyone to stop messaging, people like Scott, Rick Scott and Rubio and everybody else, like keep all this pressure on and like 10x it, right? To make sure that, if there's any possible way to do this, we can stop them from doing this. But I think the net result is a huge gain for us electorally and legit stack the fucking courts. Like next year, add 9 because it doesn't matter anymore, right? It just doesn't matter anymore. And they could come in and add 9. Cool. When you get the Senate back, which we're never going to let you do.
Right.
Yeah, I actually like the practicality of that idea. We hear consistently about how overwhelmed the Supreme Court is, that they're too busy. They can't get to all the cases that want to come. So we just add a winter session and 9 more justices for a winter session court. And so we have our year-round Supreme Court availability, and the next president gets to name 9 Supreme Court justices.
And then just watching them scream, I would find super entertaining.
Do you think that that's realistic? Because yes. I'm not saying it's a bad idea. I think it's a great idea. I'm just saying it's realistic.
It's not unprecedented.
I had the exact same response that you're having right now, Ash. Susie McAnally told me about this, and I was like, but that's crazy talk, right? And then she walks me through all the constitutional law that suggests, no, it's not crazy at all. And there's no reason why we wouldn't do it. I'm like, Okay, let's do that then.
Would Biden, Harris, and the upcoming people who are in the legislation, would they go through the process of creating that space?
Maybe.
Did we just lose Corey? Oh, there was video. Okay.
Sir, I think especially with this, right?
Right.
I've been imagining a possibility where Biden comes in, freaks everyone out by being real close to FDR. There's a moment for it, right? There is a crisis moment that I think leaves a lot of room for that. And again, anyone who's read his policy page, it is at least 50 to 75% more progressive than it needs to be to win the Democratic primary, right? Like it's leaning in that direction in a very purposeful way, which is really fun for me and everybody else who would like to see that stuff happen. But yeah, I mean that there's a real possibility that he could just come in and say, listen, like we're going to do all sorts of, I mean, since you guys love executive orders so much, right? He's not going to care that Republicans get all grumpy on Fox News about making executive orders now, right? Like there's not really going to be any electoral damage done for that. So he could basically just come in and say, this is what we're going to do, right? You wanted presidents with huge power. This is what we're going to do. And, if you don't like it, you can hear Corey's slogan, go fuck yourself.
People want superheroes and saviors and whatever other word. Did you guys see? I feel like someone in this community initially posted it, but it was an entire Twitter thread. It went to Facebook, but it was an entire thread on Batman, and it talked about how Batman, the only reason all he has is his darkness, because actually he's just the picture of police brutality.
Oh,
it was a layout of why Batman, all we have now with Batman really is his darkness. He doesn't have any cool special things he can really do anymore that aren't realistic and already being used under police brutality on the streets. And it kind of laid out how to kind of shift that so that Batman, because I feel like I ended up reposting it maybe, or sending it to some friends or something, but he basically talked about that. And my point in that is the superhero mentality. We've created this figure of one that we think is going to, quote, save us, right? Rather than people looking within their own communities, their own selves, their own families to figure out how they can make those changes. The one interesting sort of original idea that used to be actually very Republican but isn't anymore was actually the kind of community and local building. And now that's a much more progressive idea, which most people don't actually recognize or think about. And so unfortunately, that is what 45 has helped usher in, is a continued image of, I will save you, I will take care of all the problems, I'll be in charge, I'll take, Dick Cheney, I think, helped bring executive orders and the weird lines between vice president, executive, and legislative to the forefront of how much power he was able to gain and how much that Bush was able to take advantage of. And now 45 is just like run with it, like nobody's business.
Oh yeah, I think if I have any place for, I don't even want to call this optimism, but something that I'm looking for is for, like, I saw this the other day. A lot of people saying, look at where we are, where we put all of our hopes and dreams in an 87-year-old multiple time cancer survivor to save us. And they don't make them like that anymore. Yes, they fucking do. What we have to do is listen and give them light. We have to look for them. We have to ask people to step up. That's a personal ego lesson for me. I was involved in the formation of an area service committee for Narcotics Anonymous right here in Pasco County when there were no meetings here. There was like 2 meetings and nobody was ever at them. We started an area service committee to make sure that addicts that needed to find a meeting could. And I did that work for 3 years, and I got so frustrated and disgusted, I walked away from it. I was like, you watch, what'll happen now? The whole area service committee will collapse. Well, it's 32 years later, and they're still having NA meetings in Pasco County, and there is an area service committee. So getting my ego out of the way allowed other people to step up and say, no, this is my flag, and I'll carry it.
Well, and that's the thing.
That's what we need to do. Yeah.
Good. It's not even that your ego out of the way. Your ego out of the way didn't necessarily allow them to step. They were already stepping forward. Your ego out of the way allowed you to see that they were doing it. And that's what we need to do, is we need to see the people who are already stepping forward to take leadership, who are already stepping forward and speaking out really significantly, and give that room.
Right. Dave's mad that we're canceling Batman, but I would remind Dave that we have the same conversation about the Punisher and the misappropriation of the Punisher logo by police and people that support them, without really understanding that the Punisher is punishing police who overstep their boundaries. So, writers of fictional characters are reflected in what they write. That's the truth, and we don't have to like how they write a character. We can call it to account. That's why we're having conversations about gender and superheroes. That's why we're having conversations about Black Panther.
Sure, and I think cancel culture. I think it's addressed the wrong way. So I'm not necessarily pro cancel culture. I think we need to rephrase this, because I don't think we're canceling Batman. We're having a different conversation about Batman and what needs to shift. Right. And I think that's what it is, because I do think that there can be some harm if you cancel some things, because then you don't actually, in other words, it's like, Germany has gone out of its way to make sure people are educated. And actually Mein Kampf stopped being banned because a Jewish group advocated for it to be released in Germany 12 years ago, because they said we need to teach this. So I think it's just, for me, it's not about canceling it as much as it is, let's have a different conversation. One of the things that post did, and I will see if I can find it, but one of the things that post did is it actually laid out how to shift. How do we shift Batman? How do we shift our police? How do we use the example of Batman to defund police, and so that, Batman can come back into a space where he actually gets to do something more interesting? How do we understand him better? So, for me, it's about, how do we educate around these things? I think everyone gets obsessed with like, oh my God, we're going to cancel it. Just shut everything down. No, be reasonable, and let's just have a conversation about, real history.
By the way, and I am by no means a comic book expert. It's a part of culture that didn't grab me early. I was living out of the country at the age when most boys are getting into those comics. So I'm late to this whole conversation about comic culture, and I would defer to people that know more about it than I. And that would include Dave Myers by a long shot.
Yeah, for real. So I think, and again, he's freaking out that they're fictional characters. So this is the only point I wanted to make about this, is that the fictional characters that we elevate are archetypes, and they're archetypes for a reason.
Yeah. So was Candide. Candide was a fictional character. Don Quixote is a fictional character, but we recognize their value in showing us lessons about our real lives.
That's the whole idea, right? Like we're lifting these things up as sort of monuments to our civilization, right? Yes, they're fictional characters. I don't think Batman should go away. I do find it really interesting. Dave said himself, it's in the comics that the Punisher addresses the police liking him, and the Punisher is against it. That is a moral and ethical stand this fictional character is taking, and that's interesting. I don't want to cancel Batman, but I think there's an amazing potential moment for evolution.
Batman is a vigilante, and that's been a conversation as long as there's been Batman. That vigilanteism is effective. That should scare us.
Or when is it effective, right? Because, for example, that white kid, Kyle, whatever his face is, considered him and his little militia a vigilante, except he's just racist. But they think that they're, and this, by the way, this goes to chapter 3 of my book for anybody who hasn't read it yet. This is the entire thing is that each tribe thinks that it's doing good, when actually all it's doing is creating the suffering of innocence.
Listen, I'm a child of the South. I'm a man, that grew up in the South, and the original idea of forming the Ku Klux Klan was to enforce laws that were no longer being enforced. The idea that blacks were rising up and raping white women, that blacks were taking over former farms and plantations and were not being punished for it. Those were the root basis for the formation of the Klan. Vigilantes who rode around the night to enforce law that no one else would enforce, that federal authorities had stepped back from enforcing. And there's a certain amount of hero worship of that in the Old South, in particularly men of the Old South, white men who had their power removed. They actually had their power removed. And that was their response, was to lash out and kill people outside the judiciary system. So extrajudicial law enforcement is vigilantism. And I would argue with you that I don't think Kyle Rittenhouse and his militia saw themselves as vigilantes, because they understand that that's a negative connotation. They don't make the connection that what they're doing is exactly the same as what the early clan did. They don't see themselves, as you say, they see themselves as the good guys, as on the side of right.
They see them as the good vigilantes, the good, you know what I'm saying? Like that's the thing,
Right.
is it's weird fine lines, those weird little bits in language. It's Breitbart and the alt-right saying we're not like that, but they are, but they don't see themselves as they do because they choose to use a different word, or they didn't use the N word, or they're not so blatantly out with this or that or the other thing. But it's no different. And I think that that's the thing, is everyone thinks that they have the one up on the other. And ultimately what ends up happening is that's based around what we aspire to, because elitism has told us that this is the goal. This is the hierarchy of, success, if you will. There's a huge debate going on in the journalism community right now about Zucker, the head of CNN. And I have said for a long time that I think that he obviously is an opportunist, and he is someone who benefits from being a nemesis of 45. But there's been quite a few articles that have come out lately about him and his narcissism and this culture that has been created by the elitist sort of white male patriarchy. And this is what is happening right now with media, with politics, is reflection of that in a really, really big way. And so, but they don't see themselves that way. And certainly Zucker never saw himself as somebody who was egotistical, yet everyone around him, including those who've worked for him. I mean, I think I left probably about 6 months after he took over CNN, saw that ego. I saw him speak once and it was all ego. And so I think that's the thing, is that the ego is simply telling people that I'm the good guy. And as Esther Perel says, it's very, very difficult to live with a saint.
Well, it's they've done, I think, multiple studies now on CEOs in American culture and found that the majority of them are sociopathic
tendencies.
Yeah. So that doesn't surprise me at all. There's some market fit there for being a complete nutter, as we would understand it. Ginny just posted a news report, high school assignment for children to write about American heroes, and Kyle Rittenhouse was on the list. Presumably that was in bumfuck somewhere. So that's fun. I wanted to say, Dave, who is like literally like bursting at the seams right now, come on Wednesday and we will have an entire conversation about all this stuff. I think would like that. That'd be really cool. We haven't had you on in a long fucking time, so let's get it done. Yeah. It's that stuff is infinitely fascinating to me, because it's how, I think the way the culture ends up getting defined is so interesting. I mean, like, look at early Superman was like so morally and ethically dialed in, right? Like, anti-racist back when like that was weird, anyway.
Oh, by the way, I just want to tell you, I'm not saying that Batman should not exist. I'm just saying the complexities around these superheroes, I think, are worthy conversation, because art is always a reflective of the culture.
Agreed.
Sometimes confronting it, sometimes reflecting it, but art is always a statement around the culture. So, definitely be interested to what you have to say about it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, billionaire stars. I think the core thing about Batman. I'm sorry, Dave. We'll pick this up on Wednesday. But the whole idea that the police aren't doing enough and they're not serving the community, and so somebody has to step up. I mean, that whichever tribe you land in, there's a feeling around that, right? If you go to Canada, that doesn't really exist, right? It's like there aren't a whole lot of people in Canada who hate the cops because like pot's legal. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
okay, but I have a feeling, Corey, that you've been gone from Canada for a while.
That's
okay.
True.
I think I lived in Canada since you've lived in Canada.
That's true.
And I think that, remember when you had the revelatory experience of having Bab sit in the car with you and explain Me Too, and you were like incredulous that her life was like that day to day? I would bet you that Native people in Canada and minorities in Canada have a completely different view of police than you do.
We know this. We know this for a fact.
Okay.
I'm just saying comparatively between the two countries, because we don't have the necessity to start dreaming those. Well,
the place where I saw police administer Narcan to a heroin junkie to put them into withdrawal was in Vancouver. the place where I met someone who had been taken on a moonlight tour, which means they had been thrown in a paddy wagon, hauled out to Stanley Park, and had their shoes taken away, and then doused them in water in the middle of the night, was in Vancouver. It wasn't Chicago or Cleveland or Miami. I saw that in Canada, and I was shocked by it. I didn't think Canadian police were like that. I thought that was a completely American thing. So I'm just leave some room.
No, that's fair. No.
Leave some room for.
I'm cool with it.
Yeah.
Leave some room for milk.
What's that?
I said leave some room for milk.
Yeah. A little milk in your tea. Right. There we go. Yeah.
Tea.
Yeah. Look, I think every country has its problems. Definitely one of the things that I'm seeing in Europe in particular is certainly that representation is a problem here. France actually does have some of its similar struggles when it comes to police brutality. In Italy, it's not so much police brutality, but the representation as it concerns women and Black lives is almost slim to none. The country tends to be still very poor. You still have a very mafia-influenced government and still a very patriarchal-influenced government. Of course, the Vatican influences the country significantly. So there's a lot of that, but I think representation has become something I have begun to value more and more and more and more, because until we see people like us, RBG.
Yeah.
9. She said 9.
Yeah, which is so good. I mean, that's one of my favorite quotes of all time. Sue said, "I'm late. What did I miss?" Elizabeth said, "We solved everything, Sue." But Jenny said Ash's speech on RBG was worth the rewatch. I would start the show about 5 minutes in, and the rest of the conversation was fun. But the mic drop was where we could have just stopped and
definitely
not do anything more at all. Yep. Yeah, I had thoughts completely gone now.
Yep, no, we solved everything.
I think we solved everything.
Yeah. Dave, Elizabeth, all problems aren't gone now. Dude, take the fucking joke, dude. For a guy who busts balls as much as you do, come on now. Jesus.
All right. Listen, I just got a phone message. I'm going to have to roll out of here pretty shortly.
All right.
I spent all day yesterday pitching old furniture and junk off my balcony in the hope that a dude would show up with a truck to haul it away. And it turns out dude just called me. So I'm going to go have this guy get all the junk out of my yard. Looks like, you remember the scene in Animal House where they're throwing it out of the front lawn? Everything. So that's what it looks like outside my apartment right now. Okay. And I've been needing to do that for a while. So I got to go meet up with the guy to get the stuff off my lawn. Stupid stuff. Oh, dude,
that's funny. Dave just said it was supposed to be R. All right. I'll take that.
Let's all rage at each other over typos, because that's where we are as a people right now.
Can confirm. I was gonna end the show with Sasquatch is real, and on Wednesday's show we're gonna have Dave Myers on, and we're going to cancel